Well, hey everybody, welcome to Motivated Minds. My name is Carlos. I'm your host on this channel. We connect with other motivated minds, and usually every Sunday I do what we call Psycho Ed Sundays that you probably tune in for, or you have. If you haven't, definitely check out some of those live streams that I've done with some really neat comments. It's Father's Day. And I just want to say happy Father's Day to all of you guys out there. I am actually recording this on Father's Day morning, and I wanted to make sure and publish this today because there's a special story that I want to read for you guys. Okay, so if you are a dad, I want you to listen to this. This is my gift to you today. Okay, I'm going to be speaking directly to you. If you're a partner, if you're a child, a son or daughter, tell your dad to watch this video. Give this to him as a gift today, because I think a lot of dads need to hear what I'm going to share today. I'm going to react to an article today from what we would call our leading vulnerability expert, basically today, Brene Brown. And Brene Brown has a lot to say on fatherhood that I really think is spot on. And I think it's worth it to kind of break down an article that she wrote a while back on a blog that if you're a dad, again, I think you need to hear. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this. All right, so why am I going to talk about this? Let me just give you kind of like a 1-minute prep before we get into this article. Why? One of the things that I get from a lot of the dads that I work with in my practice is they're lost as far as how to help their children deal with the challenges that they're facing today that they didn't experience in their childhood. Isn't this kind of wild? Is that usually as parents we're able to say, well, I can kind of relate a little bit because of what I went through as a child. Oh man, not today. You know, there are a lot of things that your kids are facing today that you actually can't relate to, because that's how unique some of the challenges are today that your children are facing. And so they're creating a lot more turbulence in you as a dad. And let me just get in front of this so that I don't get any angry moms. And that is, I know that you have your unique challenges as well, no question. So this is just not about the Mom's Day. This is about dads on Father's Day. And that's why I thought I would present this to dads especially. And so there's a lot of shame that dads are holding today. There's a lot of shame that they're struggling with because they feel like a failure as a father, because they don't know how to relate or connect with their children's unique challenges that they're facing today. And so this video is going to be about it's about how you dads can be more comfortable basically in your own journey of fatherhood, which includes failing, okay, which includes not suiting up and showing up perfectly, and also includes those wins that you have in your journey. I hope that as we go through this, you're going to be able to feel less heavy, less weight on yourself to perform as well as you think you should in the ideal column. Right? Hopefully after you read this, you won't should on yourself as much as you have before, because there is no perfect dad. Just like your dad wasn't perfect, you're not, right? There has never been a perfect dad. And today we're going to talk about that. So let's get into this. All right. So here is the article from Brene Brown. This was in Meeker Parenting. This was a while back in 2019. But it's dads. It's what you need to hear about, what she has to say about fatherhood. And so let's look at this. Dads, you need to hear what she has to say. And this is what the article says. And by the way, if you haven't seen this Netflix special, A Call to Courage, I would really encourage you to do that because it's really awesome. So she touched on this important misconception, right, of what a lot of fathers might have about what it means to be a hero to their kids. Do any of you want to be a hero to your kids? Of course you do, right? So while at the lake with her family, okay, Brené's husband shared with her a nightmare he had. And what was this nightmare about? He was helping his kids and nieces and nephews swim across the lake when a ski boat began approaching them. In order to save all of his kids, he swam them down to the bottom of the lake. He was trying to keep them safe and alive when he noticed his son wouldn't make it under the water much longer. But the boat was coming and he didn't know what to do. Isn't that powerful? It's a pretty crazy nightmare, isn't it? I mean, you can imagine the fear that he was experiencing. And Brené does what most of us do intuitively as a partner. She tried to reassure her husband after he told her. But he was honest with her, and this is what he said, that he didn't believe her reassurances. I just love that. No, I don't believe your reassurance. I'm not in that place yet where I can actually receive that. That's probably what he was saying. Look, I can't receive that right now. All right, I need to work through this. And here's what you want, he said. This is a very present and aware husband. And he says, you know what? Here's what you want. He said, you want the guy that when the speedboat comes, he takes all 6 of his kids and he throws them, then swims so fast that he catches them. He sets them down on the dock, then he looks across the lake. He looks at you and he says, don't worry, little lady, I've got this. That's what was coming up in him. And I would say that what was coming up in him right there was probably most likely a dysfunctional narrative that he probably brought up into his adult life from his childhood. Again, look at this. This is what you want, Brené. You want that guy when the speedboat comes, that he takes all 6 of the kids, he throws them, then swims so fast, he catches them, sets them down on the dock, then looks across the lake right into your eyes, and he says, don't worry, little lady, I've got this. I think what he's actually saying there is that he desires to be respected. Let's keep reading. So, of course, Brené's point was that this is an unreasonable expectation for any man or father to be physically capable of doing. And yet, how many fathers have had a similar nightmare? How many of you guys out there have had a similar nightmare than this? Like you're not enough for your family, you're not enough for your kids. Right? How many are afraid that they won't be able to save their families from the bad guy or the ski boat? How many worry that they won't be able to provide for them, to take care of them, or be the superhero that they're expected to be, that they maybe expect themselves to be? So interesting research here. Recent research reveals that dads are spending more time than ever with their children, and yet only 39% of dads say that they feel they're doing a good job at parenting. You see, this goes back to what I said earlier. The reason I'm posting this today is because I think a lot of you dads are struggling with things that you can't even come close to relating to with your own children. But you so desperately want to help them navigate through those really choppy waters. But you can't, or you're struggling to. But you have put that expectation on yourself, though, right? That you should be able to. So here's what the article says. I believe this could largely be due to the unreasonable expectations that you dads put on yourselves, much like Brené's husband. Brené goes on to explain that one of the biggest shame triggers in men is weakness. Hello. They're told from a young age. Remember what I just said a minute ago? This is probably a dysfunctional narrative that's coming up. They're told from a young age to never show weakness. If this is true, then fathers, you must redefine what weak and strong actually means. You must understand what it truly means to be a hero in your child's life. And it's not the ability to throw them to safety across the lake. In fact, It has very little to do with physical strength at all. Absolutely, absolutely agree. So here are some really amazing points that I think will be super practical, helpful tools for you, dads. See, dads, I think you guys are very pragmatic. I think you guys are solution oriented. Well, here you go. Here's some solution for you. I think these things, these principles are extremely, I think they're very practical. They're going to make a lot of sense for you. So, how can you show up in your child's life? How can you do that? Well, here's one thing: to be present. What does that mean? Well, they are present physically and emotionally. They spend intentional time with their kids, and they listen to them. They don't just simply throw the ball. That's not all they do is throw the ball. They listen to what their kid is saying as they're throwing it. I love this because she's nailing it. She's absolutely nailing it. See, my dad threw the ball with me maybe once, but he didn't talk with me while throwing that ball. That didn't happen until later in my life, into my 30s, when a mentor actually threw the ball with me and talked with me. Do you see what this says right here? Do you see? Spend intentional time. Okay, this is how you can be a present father. It's intentional time. It's not time you can squeeze your kids in, right? That's not what we're talking about here. Intentional time means you experience some inconvenience. You might have to sacrifice some of that convenience and some of those other things in your life to be intentional, to be with your kids by listening to them. You're not just physically there, but you're actually listening to them. You're curious. You're asking them questions. What are you doing when you listen to them? You're actually making them feel like they're the most important person in the world. That's a dad being present. And you know what? You have a million things to justify not being present. We know all of these things you're doing at work, the ways that you're trying to show up and suit up for your family, the ways that you're trying to maybe work on your marriage, the outside pressures and stresses that you have outside. Those are all, valid issues. That's why this is intentional. That means you have to be that much more intentional about being present with your kids, with whatever you're doing. When was the last time you shot the ball with them, the basketball? When was the time you went out to the pool with them? When was the last time you went fishing with them? When was the last time you did whatever and actually showed interest in their life? A lot of parents will share with me, I went to every single thing with them, as a child. As a child growing up, I went to all of their events. Okay. But how present were you in those events? How present were you with them emotionally? How much did you talk with them about how they struggled in that event? How much did you validate the work that they did in that event? How much did you validate their sadness of maybe not doing so well in that event? How present were you emotionally? The next one is hero dads are careful with their words. Hero dads are careful with their words. Dad's words can make or break a child. When you tell your child something, he or she will internalize it as truth. If you tell her she's strong, she will think she's strong. If you tell her she's brave, she will believe she's brave. You have the power to build up your child's character simply by using your words. That's a lot of responsibility, isn't it? But it's absolutely true. And if I went into the brain science, you would actually see how even more true it is that your child is internalizing your words as truth. That's why they can do also such damage. But telling your son or daughter that they're strong, here's what I want to tell you. Don't just tell them that they're strong. Don't just tell them that they're brave. You know what I want you to do? I want you to justify it to your son or daughter. Justify why she's strong. Justify why he's brave. Justify it. Don't just say it. You know what you have to do when you justify it? You actually have to be up here. You have to be present to justify it. You've got to actually think of things that you know about your son or daughter in order to justify that they're brave, that they're strong. The next one is hero dads lead instead of coach. Are you crazy? I believe that there's coaching involved, but I also believe that leading is a big blind spot for dads. And there's a big difference here. There's a big difference between coaching and leading. Coaches, they can teach skills, they can encourage their execution, but it's a leader who brings vision, which is another way of saying a moral framework for how life is to be lived. Do you get that? Any dad, no matter how strong, can be present, can use his words to build up his child and give a healthy vision to his child for what kind of person he or she can be. That is a strong hero dad. So the next time that you have a nightmare about not being such a strong dad, strong enough, rich enough, good enough to be a hero to your kids and your family, remember, you might be forgetting what it actually takes to be a hero. The reality is this, that you've been your child's hero since the day you first held him, and you will always be. Wow. Really powerful, isn't it? So I am hoping that you are able to connect with it, dads. You know, you are a radical influence in your kids. I was going to say a mad influence, because you kind of are. You're a mad influence in your child's life. And there's so much. Here's what I want you to do this week. I want you to write a column. I want you to write 2 columns. In one column, I want you to write out what your ideal fatherhood looks like. Okay, what does your ideal fatherhood look like? You know, do you want to be more loving, compassionate, understanding, patient? What's in that column, in the ideal father column? Look at that column. Write out those things. Those are good things. And in the other column, I want you to write out the real father, meaning who you are most of the time. Nothing wrong with the ideal father column, but that column, if we focus too much on that ideal father column, we have a tendency to judge and be really hard on ourselves because we're the real dad, when we're the real dad. So if you are at all beating yourself up today, you guys, on this Father's Day, if you're not able to embrace the celebrations that you're being overwhelmed with today with kids, this is your day. And if you're having a hard time receiving that celebration, I want to encourage you, receive it. Receive it. You've made some mistakes. Yeah, so every father has. Probably your own father has too. All of our dads have. And also, how are you suiting up and showing up today for your kids? Are you listening to them? How are you listening to them? How are you being present? How are you justifying the awesome things that you see in your kids? How are you justifying them? How are you leading them and not only coaching them? You know, I don't think it's that difficult to see the challenges that you're facing today. I have dads every week who are sharing with me the shame that they feel over the ways that they have fallen short. And I remind them, well, how have you suited up? How have you shown up? And this is what they usually say. Well, I had that talk with my son the other day, and that was probably pretty helpful. But you know what? I haven't been able to do that for most of his life. There it is, right there. Did you hear that? He minimized the way that he showed up for his child. The way he showed up for his son, he totally minimized it. And I have to bring him back, and I have to say, wait a minute. Why don't we substitute that but for and also? Okay. you had this powerful conversation with your son that seemed to actually make a difference, that seemed to make an impact. And also, you have struggled in the past showing up that way. Keep going. And also, you were able to suit up and show up for him in the way that you did. See what I mean? It's like both of those things are true. You dads, I think today you're struggling to just look at that failure column, and you're not able to connect as much with the column, with the win column. That's what shame does. Shame doesn't allow you to see how you've actually made impacts, positive impacts on your children. Shame just wants you to see how much you have failed. You are not a failure. You have failed at times, but you are not a failure. Remember that. Don't let shame get in the way of you parenting your child. Don't let shame compete for your presence with your child. Deal with the shame. Connect with others. Connect with people that know you, love you, and care about you. Get in a group. Connect with your church family. Connect in a men's group. Do something to get out of your head so you can be more present for your kids. Okay? That is my gift to you on this Father's Day. I celebrate you. I lift you up today, and I just want to say thank you to all of you dads who are sacrificing to suit up and show up. Keep doing it. Be present. Be a leader instead of a coach. Be careful with your words. Okay? Fight to be present. Do everything you can to be present. All right, you guys. Be blessed. I hope that you can support me today if you've watched this video by liking and subscribing to my channel, hitting that notification bell because I want you to be aware of these other things that I'm going to be coming out with. This channel is not very popular because YouTube doesn't really reward these kinds of things that I talk about. If I was talking about other things in the news, I would probably getting a lot more attention. But I don't expect that. I'm doing this because I just want to leave a footprint of hope in your life today. And I hope you're able to receive that. Every Sunday, I do something I call Psycho Ed Sundays. It's a live stream that I do every Sunday, 6 o'clock Pacific time on my channel. It's kind of fun. You've got people who have really great comments. And so if you want to tune into that, hit that notification bell. Also, if you want to comment on this, that might be really helpful. If there's something as a dad that you're connecting with, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. What's coming up for you? What kind of things are you wrestling with? Did this bring any kind of hope to you today? Just to connect with, your real self and your ideal self. Your ideal fatherhood and your real fatherhood, right? So I would love to hear from you if you wouldn't mind. Okay. All right, so I want to say hang in there, but I want to say do more than that. Let's thrive this week, right? Let's thrive this week. Until next time.